welcome back to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you're listening to episode 196. Hey guys, I'm bringing back a friend, a really good friend, from all the way out in New Zealand. This is one of our brand ambassadors for the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego. And before I introduce him to you and bring him on board, I wanted to remind you that we are currently open to your film submissions shot with any brand or make of a smartphone camera. If you go to internationalmobilefilmfestival.com, you will find all the information there. And we'll also attach a link to the notes so that you can look at all the criteria and where exactly you can submit your films. We accept short films and feature-length films. All right, are you guys ready? Let's go talk to Mark. Hey, I'm butting into my own show here. This is Susie, the host. July 18th is when we recorded this episode. But I thought I'd butt in here really quick just to let you know there's a little bit of audio issues with Mark Hadlow's track. The thing is that he's wearing his earpods to record because he's in New Zealand on location. He's working. He's an actor. And so I'm just letting you know I'm aware of that. I can't remove it. I did the best that I could. And now, back to the present from the future. Hey, Mark Hadlow, my good friend. You are in New Zealand. You are one of my best and my most favorite friends in the world out there. It's too bad you're so far away. How are you?
Well, I'm very well, Susie Botello. Straight back at you. Everything you said, right back at you, darling. You are amazing. You continue to absolutely bowl me over with the energy and the enthusiasm and the support that you give us. So thank you.
Well, Mark, we should let our friends who are listening know that you are an ambassador, an honorary ambassador. I bow to you, even though you can't see me, for the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego. And you've been a judge in our film festival multiple times, and we appreciate that so much because we have the feature film competition, which is the panel, the judging panel that you're on, is highly competitive because we only choose at the very most 3 of the very best from all the submissions. And so you being on that panel and giving us the honor of having you as one of the judges for that is just a very exceptional benefit for a film festival.
Well, just before we started recording, you spoke about what is the idea of storytelling, and Jed Brophy is very good at storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the most important things about judging anything is storytelling. How is the story told? How does it look? And the latest judging that we did was just outstanding stuff. Yes. The winner was incredible.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that. And we're talking about Sohibanoo Zoghadr.
Yep.
And A Long Afternoon. It was a feature film that was shot, guys, with an iPhone, and it was all shot in one take.
It was unbelievable. I sat there and was utterly mesmerized. I mean, I really was, because it was like a play, and it was. I can imagine it must have been planned down to the nth degree, and 5 minutes into the film, I'm going, no, they can't be doing this. This is impossible. Please tell me they're not doing this. And 10 minutes later, I'm going, I was just bowled over. It was an absolute insight into what people can do if they believe in each other, teamwork. It's what films are all about. It's about if you have the concept, if you have the story, and if you have some very, very talented people, you can actually do anything.
One of the things that really impressed me about that film, Mark, was also the fact that you see them moving from set to set in this apartment. They're going upstairs into a room. They're going into the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And while these things are going on, they're setting up flashbacks in the living room.
I know. Exactly. And like to do that and be quiet.
Yes.
And not have it pick up. I mean, heck, it was like the most COVID shot film I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, not COVID, a covert, I beg your pardon, covert film I've ever seen. It was incredible. I was absolutely, in 66 years of life, I've never seen anything like it. I couldn't stop my mouth being open, flabbergasted by what I was seeing as each scene went through. And it was such a feat. It was a feat like climbing Everest. It was extraordinary.
Yes.
It deserved absolutely every possible accolade it could get.
Well, I know the filmmaker. She's going to be listening to this. And so congratulations.
Well, it was, yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Honestly, it was seriously one of the best logistical achievements of anything I've ever seen. That's both theatrically on stage and in film and in anything I've ever done. Honestly, it was. I was bowled over. I'm in awe.
It was an honor to hand her. By the way, the filmmaker came from Iran, and it was an honor to hand her the trophy in person. Yeah. At the festival.
I saw the photograph, and it was just. She looked like she was beaming, and she should also be very proud.
Oh, she was.
Her team.
Yes.
You can't do it without your team. End of story.
Yeah, and we're not talking about 3 people either.
We're talking about probably 50, 60 people, you know.
No, it was, I think it was in the teens, though, the number of people.
Yeah, well,
but,
exaggeration is always a good thing.
Yeah, that was the other part about it was that, that you have a big team like that in this small space, making these things happen very quietly. And, the reason behind why she had to do it in a hurry as well, all in one shot. And they could only do so many rehearsals on top of it. So anyways, thank you for for being a judge for that.
Well, I was so glad that I was a judge for it.
Yes.
And the other 2 films were great as well. Yep. I mean, it's just, amazing. Anyway, moving on. Come on.
Yes. Well, let's talk a little bit. Let's introduce a little bit about you, Mark, because I know that you hate talking about yourself, but come on.
Yep.
You've, let me start by saying first how honored it was, what an honor it was for me when I first met you, because the films, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit were the 2 most favorite films in my lifetime for me. And for years, I would talk about, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, how impressed I was with them. And any one of my good friends at the time knew that I was, not one of those diehard fans that knows all the details. I wasn't geeky about it. But I was more of a just worshiping the films in a sense at the same time. And so when you were introduced to me as one of the protagonists for Blue Moon, unfortunately, the film came to us right after the cutoff date for submissions, right? So I was heartbroken by that because what a great film it would have been. And as much as when I saw who you were, the protagonist, you and Jed Brophy, I was, I don't know if I've shared this with you or not, but it was so Rich Visor who contacted me. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning, right? And I just happened to kind of wake up. It was a Sunday morning, and I woke up, and just kind of checked my iPhone. And I was like, well, this person, oh, okay. He didn't say anything about who you were yet. And I was like, okay, well, I'll get to them on Monday. And then he sends me another email and he says, oh, and by the way, the protagonist from Lord of the Rings and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, wow, and by then it was probably about an hour later. And then he emails me again. And by the time I was not able to go back to sleep, Mark, I was like, okay, it's Sunday. I'm tired. But you know what? I can't help this. I got so excited. I got back to him. But the film was an exceptional film that went viral. It's called Blue Moon. And you had the experience of hundreds of performances in theater, plus performances in Peter Jackson's films, from Meet the Feebles back in 1989, all the way through a film. I'll let you go through some of your rap sheet, as we call it, right?
Well, I mean, going back a long way. I mean, film, it's not just the Peter Jackson films. I think it's everything you do. Even to the television series like Willy Nilly, or going back to the Billy T. James show. All of these things give you a periphery of how you function in that genre, and you understand where you sit in that genre. And I think if you understand that, that makes it much easier for you to be in the film, because you're not overdoing it, you're not standing out, you're not overacting, you're not, oh, look at me, look at me, look at me. I think if you understand why and the purpose of what you're doing as the character, then it makes much more sense, because you're actually existing in your character, but that character is existing with everything else. In Blue Moon, it was so easy to exist in my character because Jed was with his character, and all of the other characters that were in the film, including my daughter Olivia, who played my daughter in the film, and Doug Brooks, and everybody, even I can't remember her name off the top of my head, who was my wife on the phone. All of these people played a vital part in making that film complete. And it was complete because we all knew and understood our function. If for me, it wasn't about, wow, I'm the lead in a film. Nothing to do with that at all. It's about what you bring to the game, the experience you have, and being able to still be open to challenge, be open to listen, be open to be receptive of what's happening towards you. Jed Brophy, for example, is the easiest man to respond to because he gives in his performance to you what you can give back to him. And that's the bottom line. If you trust someone, you can go anywhere. We rehearsed that. Steph trusted us. And we ripped that film out in 7 days. This is the thing, too. Yeah. It was shot on an iPhone. We ripped it out in 7 days. Everybody involved in that. Liz Mullane, who came in and played the cab driver. These, just really small moments in the film, but all absolutely contributing to this quite extraordinary film that was shot in a BP petrol station in Motueka. I still don't believe it. And it was 5 years ago nearly.
Wow. Time flies.
Does it ever? And, it still gets things. I've won something else. Last year, I won Best Actor for my role in Blue Moon. And I couldn't go over to get the award because I was doing a film called Deep Water. But they've rolled it over, so I'm going to go and get it this year. But I'm so chuffed about it. I'm chuffed about it because of everybody that was involved. It was a phenomenal moment where we were all available. I remember the conversation I had with Jed on the plane down to for a sort of a meeting with Steph before we would go down and shoot the film. And we went down there, and Jed and I had a really serious conversation on the plane. And we had read the script, and we said, this is going to be extraordinary. I mean, it'll be, are we going to rehearse this? And we both agreed, yes, let's rehearse this. And we rehearsed it before we actually were on set. And I think it made a heck of a difference. It also made a difference from the perspective of the time that we had to film, because we were already up to the mark. We hit the ground running. We were we were on set. We were ready to go. There was a 13-minute take that Steph did. We were supposed to finish at about 5 minutes. Steph kept the camera rolling, and we kept going. We just kept going. There were moments like that through the whole film. It was just one of those things where everything comes together. I guess it was a bit like, the film that was judged the winner this year. Just everything came together. I'm very proud of it. I was delighted to be able to And when I saw it again the other day with a friend of mine. I haven't seen it for a while. Yeah. And there's some really good moments in it. It's a really good film to be shot on an iPhone. There's a couple of little bleeps in it, but continuity bleeps. But you get over that, move through that. If that's all you're noticing, then you're not really interested in the film. But
yeah, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the performance you guys gave, because it was very focused on the storytelling. I remember when we spoke about this a million times probably, that we talked about how you and Jed had to build the backstory to the story that was on that screenplay.
Well, the backstory was that we'd both been at boarding school at Christ College, which is a pretty prestigious boarding school in Christchurch in the South Island, which I went to in 1971 through to 74. And this backstory was that both Jed and myself had been at school there together, and we called ourselves Toad, Molly, Ratty, and Badger. There were two other guys, and I can't remember the name of the character that we talk about, who's the real estate agent, which is a really great name. And we were all at school, and something bad happened at school. We never got to mention it, but we thought that it was some sort of robbery, that we robbed a tuck shop or something, and someone got hurt because they saw us and whatever. But and I think, we're not sure, but Jed's character was expelled. I stayed, and I think that stayed all the way through, and we used that as the backstory. So hence we knew where we could pick it up from. So as probably 15, 16-year-old boys through to when we were in our late 40s, early 50s, we just picked up where we left off when we were 15 or 16. So I think that's what gave us the kickstart into that lovely moment when he says, "Go on, Toadie, do us some of your Shakespeare," and all that. And it was
the teasing.
It was incredibly, well, it was, and there's an incredibly vulnerable moment when Jed's character says, "Just once, you've never called me Ratty," and it's really interesting. We built so much into that, and as I say, it's wow, and the guys, I can't remember who was behind the camera. It was Gavin. I think it was Gavin, or was it Gavin? I'm not sure.
I can't remember either. I'm sorry. I don't have it's been a while.
No, I don't have it in front of me. And the sound, and they moved with us. They were so amazingly capable of, if we moved somewhere differently, they would go with us. And I think that's one of the great things about filming on an iPhone. You don't feel so invaded. You haven't got a big camera in front of you. We only had him on the holding an iPhone on a gimbal, and and that was a huge, I think, confidence for us, because we didn't feel invaded. And you could see through the iPhone into the character that you were looking at.
You and I spoke about that once, because I was saying how the screen on the phone, the camera, is like the window.
well, yeah, it's the window to a lot of things,
Yeah.
and I think because the iPhone, even if it's in front of you and you're talking to a character on the other side, that other character is just behind the iPhone. So we were pretty fortunate there, and I think that worked really well. I know that it helped Liv as well, because Liv, Olivia was, she was thrown into the deep end there, and I think she came through really well. Not being nepotistic or anything.
No, she was. Her performance was outstanding as well.
Yeah, and I've worked with Doug Brooks a lot of times since too, and the best moment for me is when Doug's on the bench and he's like dead and he coughs. And it's just, it's one of the funniest yet most incredibly scary moments in the film. And I just found it's just so funny when I go, because I just think it's a wonderful moment.
Yeah.
And then when Jed's character has to snort some coke, and then he comes up and then I say, there's still some on your nose, and he goes, oh. I mean, that wasn't scripted. That's what we did. There was a lot of little moments like that, and thank God, you're working with someone like Jed who can take that, and we can both collaborate and both are completely trusting of each other. Okay, you're going to go down there, I'll go down there with you. And the beating, that he gives me is quite vicious, and I totally trusted him with that. And he's an amazing physical actor as well. Oh God, I want to work with him again. Someone out there must have a film they want to make that we could do again. I just love working with Jed, and I miss him a great deal at the moment. I miss him a lot.
You guys have a camaraderie that shows in your performances, and even when you were enemies.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, but Blue Moon came out of another script that Steph was trying to write about a cop chasing a guy who was a serial killer. We so wanted to make that, and we did actually do some pre-viz shots, giving some idea about it, but it never got off the ground. I mean, we tried to get some funding, but it's so hard to get any funding from anything if you're not recognised. If you're not 12 or 15, you can't get funding. It's just so hard to get any sort of collateral backing. A friend of mine at the moment, Campbell McLean, and I are trying to do another film, and it's a fantastic film idea about two identical twins. I played two identical twins, and it's a really great film, and it's a sort of a kaleidoscope of so many things, and it's also a travelogue, because we end up going from Auckland down to the South Island, and these two brothers who are identical twins, they get into all sorts of trouble on it. It's a great film. But how the hell are we ever going to get anything off the ground? It's called Oceans Apart, and it's there's so many things. Jed and I were trying. Well, Jed was trying to write a lovely television series, not a lovely, a really full on accurate film set in a high school in Motueka, because we had worked so well there. We wanted to make something there, and he started writing a TV show down there, but so hard to get it past the first past the post,
Yes.
So many things. I mean, TV series, The Delivery Man, which was about a modern day Robin Hood that I came up with, and it went to TVNZ, and Steve Barr looked at it and he thought, oh, this is quite good, and then took it to his team, and of course they all said, oh, this is not really attractive to the people we're trying to get to, which is 29-year-olds through 35s, or 25-year-olds through 35. And you're going, well, since when did 25 to 35-year-olds watch television? They only watch their iPhones and their devices, So I don't know. We've really got to reevaluate how much storytelling is a part. That's why I love doing theatre. Gregory Cooper, who writes the plays that I end up being in, he's a writer. He understands the story, and that's important. Steph understands a story. It's about the storytelling. Why is Britain, England, and Ireland, and Scotland, and the Europeans, more so than anyone else in the world, good at doing films and theatre? Because they write good stories.
Yes.
They support the writers. And, that's the thing. In America, sort of with the strike, supporting about the rights and going out against AI was such a great thing because, it all comes apart when you see a script that's written in AI. It's AI. You can tell it.
Oh, yeah.
Without a doubt, because there is no vulnerability at all. There's no heart to it. There's no feeling to it. I defy description of it. I'm talking too much, Susie.
No, I think you're doing fantastic. And you know how I feel about storytelling. That's what connects us from human to human since the beginning of human existence. This is what drives us. It's what inspires us. It's empathy and everything. And so for me, it's a very important topic about how powerful storytelling is, which is, who knows, maybe that's part of the reason of why AI is so popular with these people who want to empower it. But one of the things on this podcast that I include in the description of it is that I don't use AI, to produce it.
Thank God for that.
Yeah. And the other thing is the film festival itself in the criteria says no AI either.
Great. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. People talk to me about what makes a good film, what makes a good piece of theatre. And I'll tell them every time, it's in the story.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the story. I mean, why do I like a good film that has, I've just done a two-hander with Lara McGregor called Mr. and Mrs. Macbeth of Dodson Valley Road and Heskett Valley Road. And we worked together in this play in Christchurch for 5 weeks. I just love it because there I am with this actress on stage who is a very good actress. And we both really understand each other. We're so similar in regards to being open, be authentic, vulnerable, connecting. Lara teases me all the time. Are you connecting with me? Are you looking in my eyes? Are you connecting with me? And I say, yes, I am, for Christ's sake. And so she's very funny. But, we played for 5 weeks, and it was the best 5 weeks I've done for a while.
Aww.
Because we had a chance to do this play every night for 5 weeks at the Court Theatre in Christchurch. And golly, it was just such a revelation to be able to be on stage again for a 5-week run in a two-hander written by a really good playwright, and people really enjoy it because it's a good story. I love it. You can't beat it. And the same in anything you do. Anything, even radio, when they used to do radio stories. We used to do radio stories when I first got involved in our business. We had these radio plays that were sent to us from England, already done, already edited, already put together. We would be the voices that were brought in. I worked with some of the great voice artists in New Zealand in my early part of my career, underneath the Radio New Zealand House, right behind Parliament in Wellington, which is gone now. Mm. It's been pulled down and gone and all that sort of stuff. But that was the essence of what professionalism was about. You actually could hit your marks. You actually knew where the microphone was. And you learned from these people who were so good at what they did.
Yes.
That's what it's about. Career development. None of that exists anymore. It really doesn't. I don't know how the young ones coming out of drama school or getting these career degrees, out of university that has a piece of paper that says, I have a BA in acting. What the frick does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's a very tough time. Everything is changing from underneath our feet. How do you balance yourself?
I don't know, and I'm worried for them. That's why I'm desperately trying to, we formed a theatre company last year in Nelson called the Professional Theatre Company, and we're trying desperately on the smell of an oily rag that's nearly lost all of its oil, and it's about as dry as an old piece of bark. And my board and myself and the people with the company are trying so desperately hard to keep it afloat. Oh God, it's so hard. career development, career advancement, giving people the experience of what we've done. 44 years I've been an actor.
The whole point of it is that you're telling a story through film. And when you're focused on that in the same way that you're saying, Mark, and the way that I, present this as a format for storytelling, when you do that, if you're able to, please do seek out the good actors. And I believe theater actors are very good for mobile filmmaking. And I think that your testament about how good it was and how liberating, right, it was to have the performance that you and Jed made, and Jed also has that theatrical background, that you made with a iPhone in the room, as opposed to the invasive, consuming in your face large camera format, can really benefit.
I'll actually say, yes, it is good, the mobile phone. But you see, to me, there's this thing about this thing that existed for ages, that theatre actors can't act on film. I don't know where that came from. I mean, yes, there were the very overdramatic actors that sometimes you meet and they, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try and even, some people are over the top. There's no doubt about it. But if you do find a situation where you have or need actors, inevitably, I'm going to look at people and go, wow, yes, you've done a lot of theatre. That's going to help, because in essence, that's in reality. There's no film. There's no camera. You can't do it again. You've got to do it once. Yes. So the pressure of that has to actually benefit anything that you're involved with. And I actually think sometimes it's the other way around. A lot of film actors cannot act in theatre.
I agree.
I really do. I think it's completely the other way around, and and the older I get, the better I am. I feel in myself, I'm getting better at being able to challenge myself to be a better actor on screen, to challenge myself to be a better actor in the theatre, to challenge myself to be a better actor in film, in television, or whatever genre I happen to be doing it in. The challenge is that you don't start believing your own bollocks, your own bullshit. Excuse my language.
That's fine.
I know, but you've just got to swallow your pride and just be there for the people. You can't underestimate how important it is that what you bring to whatever genre you're doing it in, you bring your A game. Yes. There's no excuse for not bringing your A game. Unless you're really ill, which I understand, but you've got to bring your A game. You can't just waltz in there and I mean, you're pretty soon found out if you don't bring your A game, and I mean that's pretty obvious, and that's why we get this this is why we get this terrible sensationalism that happens all around the world. All movie actors must be really not very good people. Oh, excuse me. Everybody's a good person. I don't necessarily think that just because someone hears something about someone that they're bad. I never listen to gossip. I never listen to idle talk, chit chat. I'm one of the great believers in, until I've met a person, until I've worked with a person, then I will make my own personal judgment on that. And I won't discuss that with anyone else, because I hate gossip. I
did not realize that you and I have that in common too. I'm not one of those people that goes around reading all the Hollywood gossip. I've never been even when I was in my teens, I've never been like that.
It's all utter, it's all what do they call it? Scuttlebutt. It's all scuttlebutt. It's just rubbish.
Yeah.
And the only reason it exists, it's the same as the stuff that we see on all the sensationalism on the social media perspective. Yes. It all goes nuts, and it's all speculation. There is no founding in. It's not fundamentally true. A lot of it, anyway.
Yeah.
You tell me how much of it is true, or what is true. I had a discussion today with another actor friend of mine, Alison Quegan, and we were talking about what actually is true.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we don't underestimate how important our business is as an art as well. It is a talent prescribed industry. I mean, it should be. People are there because they're talented, especially theatrically. I mean, theatrically, you have got to come up with the goods on more than one occasion. But intrinsically, it should be about talent. And that makes us sometimes a bit elitist, and not elitist in the bad way. I mean, elitist in the fact that, we should have the best proponents of our craft, our industry, exhibited on screen and on film and on television and in documentaries and stuff. I mean, David Attenborough documentaries. Why is David Attenborough so good at documentaries? Because he's been doing it for over 70 years. He's incredible, and he's a genius, and he's incredibly intelligent. And,
and putting that into the mobile filmmaking thing is really something that I wish more filmmakers would do, because it's like, don't go into making a movie with a smartphone thinking, oh, it's just a smartphone. Think about it as, again, it's a story you get to tell through film. And thank God you have this camera in your possession where you can create such a film. You have to be able to believe in the craft itself and then involve that camera play into it and play it for what it's, yes, it has limits, but so does everything have limits.
Yep. But again, Susie, I come back to the most important component, story.
Yes.
Story. And if you haven't got that, it doesn't matter what mobile phone you've got. It doesn't matter who you've got. If you haven't got a good story, so spend the time on that. Get input, and not necessarily, but less is more. You don't have to, write the living bejesus out of it from the perspective of so many lines. I mean, one of the great things about the film that we did was that the lines that we did, we expedited that script pretty closely. Steph Harris was really good at some of that, and we were able to change those things and make them more acclimatized to ourselves and our characters. Mm-hmm. But we worked pretty closely on that. I mean, Liv and myself and Jed would rehearse. We would rehearse where we were staying, and so that we knew that when we came to set, there were certain aspects of lines that worked better. It was really interesting to create this.
You and Jed both came at this from as a professional, as experienced actors who were going to perform, and you were going to tell this story through a film that was being made. And then it just happened to be an iPhone. I remember it, it's been a while since we last spoke with our listeners, but share the story of how this came together between you and Jed, the introduction to this film.
I think the intro to the film was because we'd worked so hard on the other film. And I jokingly, seriously had a conversation with Steph Harris. I jokingly had a conversation. I said, "Oh, Steph, why don't you write a film that we can just shoot on a mobile phone? We could shoot the film that you've written, the one that we had written first. Right. Let's just shoot it on a mobile phone. We can cut down the costs. We can cut down the amount of people. Not because we want to, but because then it becomes we can actually then do the story." And so Steph said, "Oh, and he came up with a script. And then I said, okay, so you've got the script, this new script. And he came back with this new script within a week.
Wow.
I think it was a week or a month or something. And because I said to him, like Jed and I have done this film. I mean, why don't we just shoot this on a mobile phone out there? And he wrote this other script from that. And he came back and said, and I think we want to shoot it on a mobile phone. And I want to shoot it in a garage. I want to shoot it in a week. And Jed and I collaborated on that and said, why don't we do this? So it was huge. I mean, it was a huge amount of commitment by everybody. But Steph had the courage to do that and to say to us, I want to do this. And then we went from there. And I went back to him with the idea of saying, well, why don't we, so we can cut this, if someone's going to play my daughter, why don't we get Olivia to play my daughter? Because Olivia knows me. She's done enough. She'd done enough theatre. She'd done a couple of things on film. I said, let's give her a shot. So she put something down on tape, and I think he looked at it, and we agreed on it. So there was, and Doug Brooks had done a lot of film. Doug playing the other criminal in it. I mean, Doug was amazing on it. He was, and Liz Mullane. I suggested Liz Mullane, and just these little moments. And the other, I can't remember his name. I do apologise, but the guy that came in and was playing who came in to get the cigarettes. All these little bits, and then the surprise of it all was the policemen that were being filmed. They were all amazing. I mean, it was just, I don't know what it was. The police sergeant that came in, Rob, I can't remember his last name, and we had that scene together. That was all just off the cuff. When he was asking me, so you've been here all night? Yeah, and all that. Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. But I think because of what we created already, they had seen what was going on between Jed and myself and Olivia and Doug and Liz and the other guy. They had seen what was going on, so they realised, so Steph was incredibly lucky as well as a filmmaker. And, to get all those elements together at the same time, and the authenticity, the authenticity just makes it. Because Jed being a policeman, being able to present the police in a positive light from the perspective of how they look, instead of, it makes sense to me that, there we had the real police perspective on what it looked like, how it felt, and they were acting like they were real police. Yeah. And I think it makes such a difference when it's the reality and it's actually presented in the correct light, not a warped light. Yes, there probably is some terrible examples of police throughout the world who don't do good things, but I would consider that mostly in every situation our police are pretty, it was good to be able to have them in the film because they were so good. I don't mean to upset people from the perspective of trying to say the police, they're amazing, but they do an incredible job. And there they were there. And I think at one point they went off to do something that had happened. So yeah, it was pretty cool. We didn't misuse public money either. So I want to make that really clear. Right. They were off duty. So, yeah. So, but anyway, that's beside the point.
It doesn't happen every day where you get policemen involved in a film like that, right?
yeah, and police personnel, I suppose. Yes. I mean, if you're going to be correct about it, we should say. But it was just amazing. It was everything came together and.
Which is your? We're going to add the link because it's on Amazon now. It's been on Amazon for a year now, so I'm going to add the link to the notes for Blue Moon. But I have another question for you. Mm-hmm. What is the best? I mean, you've played hundreds of roles on film, and hundreds of roles in theater, probably 1,000 of those. But just so that you all know, I tend to exaggerate just a tad bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little
bit.
Not
hundreds of roles, you're right. But hundreds in theater, yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say on film was your most memorable and also your favorite roles? If you can tell us a little bit about at least the top 3 and a little bit about why.
Well, Blue Moon is obviously up there. Okay, I mean, but we've been talking about Blue Moon, so let's not talk anymore about that.
Right.
Only because of the circumstances of it, who I was working with, how it came out, and what it felt like, and all of that perspective. The other film, two experiences. One was a short film I did way back in about 1987, I think, was called Just Me and Mario. And it was a film that was made by Greg Stitt. It was a short film, 51 minutes long. And it was about a guy who was president, a sort of slightly on the spectrum character, which I was playing, who was the president of the Mario Lanza fan club in New Zealand.
Oh.
And it is a great little film. And I got taught the Nesindorma by a lovely teacher in Christchurch for the film. And the film is fabulous. If you can look it up, Just Me and Mario. It's a film by Greg Stitt. It's really it's a really cult film. I think it's incredible. And at the time, and there's a bit in it. There's quite a few scenes in it that they remain pretty prominent in my memory of filmmaking. And that was before mobile phones. That was
1987,
like way back. Yeah.
I would say
1980s. Yeah. And the other bit I really enjoyed was, there's been lots actually. Television series wise, there's been lots, but the other film that I really enjoyed was the clip I did in Mortal Engines.
Yes.
Which was Christian Rivers directed, Peter produced, but there was I played I can't even remember the name of the character, but he was a slave trader and he sold people, and I played this character who only had one scene, and whereby he sold the leads, and which was quite fun, but we went through quite a bit of investigation as to how we were going to play it, and the way the character was going to be. But it was the most complete bit of filmmaking I've done for one character in one scene in like literally 2 minutes of the film. The interesting thing was when the film was finished, and I had 3 days on the film, of which, but the scenes were lovely. Now, come on.
You were exceptionally awesome and fun to watch.
It's such a great film, and the lovely lady I was working with, who from New York, an American actress. We went up a number of times. We laughed out loud on a number of occasions because I was just doing some really interesting, I suppose, funny stuff, but also off screen, which was really disturbing for myself, but fun. But the really interesting thing was I did that. And of course, most actors who have worked on films know that you're going to get a call for ADR, which is additional dialogue recording, which means you have to go back and mouth and do the sound and match your voice with what you did on film. Well, I got no call for that. Now, there was no call for me to go back and do any ADR. So I thought, snip, snip.
Right.
My scene had been cut from the film because honestly, up until that point, I'd never not done any ADR because, just the clarity of what they need in the sound. Anyway, so, we got an email invite to go and watch the cast and crew screening of Mortal Engines in Wellington. I was in Christchurch doing a show. And Amanda, who was the Wingnut Films then, who was the general manager or the executive manager of Wingnut Films, she rang me and said, you haven't got back to me about whether you're coming to the cast and crew screening. I said, Amanda, come on. The scene's been cut. And she said, what are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? I said, Amanda, I didn't get any ADR calls. That obviously means that the scene was cut. She said, Mark, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. The part that you've done is really great. And we really like it. It's funny and it's great. And so when I saw it, I was over the moon. I was really, really proud of what I'd done. and that was, I really enjoyed that, and it was a salute to Dame Edna Everidge, actually, because we went all over the place to try and find what character it was, South Africa, whether he was English, whether he was American, and we finally settled on Australian, which was this, well, not Australian, just that lovely, that lovely Australian characters that they come out with, especially Les Patterson, the Les Patterson type character. And
it reminds me a little bit about steampunk in a way.
Yeah, well, it was, and that's exactly what it was. Yep. And it was, and I've got a great photograph of that. The coat that they made for me was fantastic. It was like it had shells all over it. It was an incredible coat. The costumes were amazing in that.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a really great moment, and I'm, like any of the Peter Jackson films that are produced or made or directed by Pete or whatever, they're such fun to be on. They really are, and I really enjoy working enjoy working in film, because you get to be able to do things, and you can do them again. You can come up with something. It's like, all the way through The Hobbit. Watching Martin Freeman work. Martin Freeman makes the most extraordinary choices as a film actor. I mean, watching him work was I think that was one of the highlights for me. I mean, all of the actors working, Sirian and Richard Armitage and Jimmy and all of those wonderful actors that were working. Oh God, incredible. Wow, Aidan Turner, oof, another one. I mean, you meet these people, and it was like we all were like these boys in the boarding school on this film set, and we teased each other rotten. Graham was the same. I used to tease Graham ridiculously by just standing behind him and saying nothing, and he turned around and he, "Would you get the F away from me?" And his lovely Scottish accent, Graham McTavish, and we had such fun. And Jed and I and Adam were very close on that. Adam Brown were very close on that film together. That was before we went to did Blue Moon.
Of course.
And we had a backstory in that, the three. I used to drive them crazy with the backstory. But I guess, and I mean, if I'm being over the top about it, I mean, Meet the Feebles, being able to sing and do what I did, just as a voice in the film. I mean, I long to do voice characters in films. The whole concept of voice characterization is, I think, just embedded in my entire body, and I've not had the chance to do anything yet. I can't wait, and maybe as an older actor I can get this opportunity to play some old character that's got this incredible voice.
Awesome.
Probably not. There's too many of them out there. But anyway, what the hell. There you go, Susie. I answered that question in a very long and drawn-out way.
That's exactly what I was hoping you would do, Mark. Yes, very, very entertaining and very enlightening. And Mortal Kombat. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. Mortal Engines. It's fine. Had a mortal in it. It's fine.
Mortal Engines is actually playing right now on Netflix, and that scene that you were talking about, it may have been just a few minutes, but it's in the trailer, and the film was one of the top 10 for a while.
Wow.
We'll have to say to our listeners that Mark is not at home right now. He's basically on, he's working. And so the audio is a little scuffy, but that's okay because the content and the quality of our guest is so important. And it's, in this particular instant, his stories are so captivating that we're okay with that.
Susie,
you're incredible. I'm always, it's a big privilege to have you on the show so that people around the world can be inspired by you. And I can't thank you enough. I know you're going to be a judge again next year for the 2025 edition.
All right.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
Yes.
I really will. They've got. My goodness me! After the winner this year,
I know it's going to be tough, right?
I mean, wow. What does the oyster of the world bring to us next year? Yeah. I mean, it's. I just hope that we can.
It was also very important for the filmmaker to have the film in the U.S. And it's one of the reasons.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah, one of the reasons why she made sure that it was a difficult trip, as you can only imagine, to make it here. I was doubtful a number of times, like, whoa, let's see. I was, wrangling my hands, saying, okay, hopefully she'll make it, and everything will work out. And she made it, and there were a few tears shed on stage.
Yeah. But how brave of her, Susie.
Yes. Oh, my God.
How brave.
Heroic.
Of her and her team.
Yes.
I mean, that would not have been easy at all.
No.
And so from that perspective, the accolades are even more accomplished. Wow.
Sometimes the backstories to the things, to the actual films, I mean, I'm very attracted to them. Obviously, I'm not interested in the gossip, as you all just heard. So to me, it's the backstories, the true stories told from people who are making the films. And that I'm fascinated by that, Mark.
But it's also about what we commit, as senior actors and practitioners. It's really important that we support the young ones as well, the younger people coming through. I'm doing a film next week in Wellington. Paige I won't give her surname just in case, because I haven't discussed this with her at all. But Paige is doing a film next week, a short film about, it's a very diverse film, and I'm playing the father in the film, and I'm so glad I am, because, she's just graduating from film school, and it's going to be her contribution to her degree. And I'm playing a farmer in it, and she's written the script, putting it all together next week. So I'm going to go down there and I hope, help make the film a little bit more experienced and concrete, so that it gives her a feeling of being able to pursue her career and move forward on there. I mean, there's a whole bunch of these young students who are doing these films. And I've done 3 or 4 over the last 4 or 5 years, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them, because what you bring, they really embrace.
Yes.
And then they feed off it. And that's what I think is important, understanding how much you can benefit people who are starting their careers in our industries. I'm happy to do that constantly. Doesn't make you much money, but then it's not about the money, Susie.
No.
It's just about it's about the.
You're a mentor.
It's about the. Well, no, it's also about the gravitas. I mean, the gravitas of our industry is so important.
Yeah.
It's got to have gravitas. Otherwise, it's just a facade. And it's all the sensationalist stuff that we see in magazines that is completely and utterly unrealistically stupid. And it's put together by people who normally have nothing other to do than create rubbish out of nothing,
It's the difference between chasing a dream and chasing stars that are way up there.
Oh,
always.
My God. Yeah.
If you're out in outer space floating in a capsule, you still can't touch the stars. So imagine that.
No. Yeah. Or a tin can. Oh, my God. How good to talk to you. And it's lovely to hear your voice. And it's lovely to be enthused and invigorated by you as well. So thank you, Susie.
Thank you, Mark. Say goodbye to our listeners.
Goodbye, everybody. Good luck with your endeavors. Good luck with your projects. And, as I said, story, belief, faith, and your team. That's it.